Tom was just a boy when he made the promise. He didn't know what it meant to give someone your word. He only knew he liked Lena more than anyone else in the world. They lived on a small colony world called Meraphor. The land was dry and the air always smelled like dust and old machines. Most people there worked as miners or mechanics. Their homes were made from metal sheets and thick glass, nothing fancy. But it was Anonym's father worked in a repair bay fixing broken cargo ships. His mother taught small children at the outpost school. Tom liked to play near the old satellite tower at the edge of the settlement. It had fallen years ago, and no one came to fix it, so now it was part of the landscape. Helena always followed him there. She was quiet but never afraid. She would climb up the rusted frame higher than Tom dared. She laughed when the wind rushed through her hair, and she looked down at him as if she was on top of the world. You're going to fall one day, Tom shouted once. Then you'll catch me, she replied. Only afternoon. The sky was soft and blue, with only a few white clouds above. The two of them sat on the grass near the satellite dish. Tom had brought 2 cans of fruit juice. He gave one to Lena, and they drank slowly, watching the sun dip lower. I heard we're getting a new ship tomorrow, Lena said from off-world. Tom nodded. Maybe they'll bring toys or sweets like last time. Lena turned to him. Her eyes were a strange color, not just brown or gold, but something in between, like honey and sunlight. Tom, she said, do you think we'll always be here? Tom looked at the sky. He had never thought much about leaving. He liked the quiet life. The stars were pretty, but far away. Maybe, he said. Why? She picked a small flower from the grass and spun it between her fingers. Because my parents say we might move soon, not just to another place on Meraphor, but to another planet, a special place where we belong. Tom frowned. But you belong here with us. Lena smiled softly. They say it's where we come from a long time ago, before we lived here. They never told me much before, but lately they've been talking about ships and visitors and other worlds. Tom sat up. You can't go. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, she said. But if I go, I'll come back one day. I promise. Tom didn't like the sound of it. Something inside his chest felt heavy. He grabbed her hand and held it tight. Then I'll wait, he said, and when you come back, I'll marry you. Lena blinked. What? I mean it, Tom said. You're my best friend, and I don't want to lose you, so I'll marry you when you come back. Lena laughed, but it wasn't a mocking laugh. It was light and surprised and full of something warm. She nodded, and they pressed their hands together like they had seen in old films, where the people made a promise without needing paper or rings. I'll remember, she said. You better. To that night, Tom went home smiling. He told his mother he made a promise. She just smiled and ruffled his hair, not thinking much of it. Next morning, everything changed. His ship arrived. It was not like the others. It was silver and long, with smooth curves and a soft hum that made the ground feel alive. Soldiers stepped out wearing clean white suits with strange symbols on their arms. Some hid behind the crates near the landing pad. He watched as Lena's parents spoke with the visitors in hushed voices. Then they brought Lena forward. She didn't look scared. She looked calm, as if she knew this was coming. She wore a new dress that shimmered in the sunlight and ran up to her before she could step into the ship. You're really going, he said, breathing hard. Lena turned to him and smiled, but her eyes were wet. Yes, they say it's time. He didn't know what to say. His chest hurt more than before. You'll come back, right? He, a sketch, nodded. I promise. Remember? And you remember what I said? She reached out and touched his hand. I remember. You said you'll marry me. Then you have to come back, he said, so I can keep my promise. She smiled again, then turned and walked into the ship. The doors closed and the engines hummed louder. Dust lifted round the pad as the ship rose into the sky. Tom stood there watching until it disappeared beyond the clouds. No one else seemed surprised. They talked about Lena being special, about her bloodline. In hidden history, they said the visitors were Alari nobles, and that Lena had royal blood. Tom didn't care about that. He only cared that she was gone. He went back to the hill near the old satellite dish and sat there alone. The wind was quiet and the grass didn't seem as green as before. He didn't cry, not because he wasn't sad, but because he had made a promise, and promises weren't something you cried over. They were something you kept. From that day on, Tom kept going to the hill. He would fix broken drones and help his father in the repair bay, but every evening he went back to the hill and looked up at the stars, wondered where she was. If she had found her palace or her world of light, he hoped she hadn't forgotten them. Promise of Beckhouse. He hadn't. Years passed. The world changed a little. Some houses got brighter roofs, A few more ships came and went, but the hill stayed the same. So did Tom's promise. He didn't know it yet, but far away beyond 100 stars, a girl with honey-colored eyes was looking at the same sky, waiting for the day she could return, because she had a promise to keep too. Tom was no longer a boy. He had grown taller, broader, and his hands were rough with years of work. He lived in the same small colony on Marifor, but everything around him had changed. The old satellite tower had fallen completely. Now only metal scraps remained in the grass. The children who once played there had grown up and moved away. The wind still blew over the hills, but the laughter was gone. Tom worked in the main hangar of the outpost. He fixed old cargo ships, repaired worn-out drones, and cleaned broken engines. He was one of the best mechanics on the planet, but he never talked much. People liked him, but found him quiet. He kept to himself. He still visited the hills. Sometimes after work, he would sit there looking at the stars as if expecting someone to appear from the sky. He never said her name anymore, but she was always in his thoughts. Lena, many people in the colony believed she was just a story, a rich girl who left and never came back. Some said she had been taken by nobles. Others thought she had died in space, but Tom knew better. He remembered the ship, the soldiers, the promise. He remembered her eyes and the way she said she would return of it. After 10 long years, he still waited. On morning, the sky over Marifor turned bright. The sun was blocked by something large, a ship larger than any the colony had ever seen, hovered above the landing field. Its surface shone like polished silver, and it moved without sound. Orion in the colony ran out to look. Them stood near the hangar, his hands covered in grease. He wiped them on his shirt and watched in silence as the ship slowly landed. Its doors opened. Soldiers in golden armor stepped out. They stood tall and still, not speaking. They carried long staffs with glowing ends that pulsed soft lithium. She came out. She wore a silver robe that moved like water. Her hair was longer, her face older, but her eyes were the same, honey gold. Tom blinked once, twice. He didn't move. He couldn't believe it. It was Lynn. Ash walked straight toward him, her face calm, her steps steady, as if she had done this before. When she stopped in front of him, everyone turned to watch. The workers, the traders, the children. Everyone fell silent. Lina looked at him and spoke in a clear voice. You promise to marry me. I've come to collect that promise. Tom stared at her. The wind blew gently around them. A few people laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, but Lena did not smile. Tom wiped his hands again and shook his head slowly. I said that when I was a kid. He said we were 10. Lena nodded. I remember every word you said. You would wait. I said I would return. And now here we are. Tom looked at the soldiers behind her. They stood without emotion, like statues made of light and metal. Why now? He asked. Because I'm needed, she said, and I cannot do it alone. Tom frowned. What do you mean? I was taken to the world of my ancestors, she said. I was trained as a princess. I was taught how to lead, but now the empire is changing. They want me to marry someone with power, someone who does not care about people. And you want to marry me instead? He asked, confused. I want someone I trust, she said, someone who knows how to fix what is broken, not just machines, but people, places, even hearts. Tom felt the weight of her words, but it didn't make sense. I fixed ships, not empires. He Sage smiled, this time soft and real. That's why I came. You never asked for a crown or gold. You never lied. You gave me a promise, and I believe in promises. Tom turned and looked at the hill in the distance, the place where they made that promise so long ago. It was strange how the past could walk right up to you when you least expected. I've looked back at her. What if I say no? Lena nodded. Then I will leave, and I will face what comes alone. He paused. Why didn't you write all these years or send a message? I wasn't allowed, she said. They watched everything I did. I had to wait until I had power of my own. Tom looked around. The colony people were watching. They didn't understand what was happening, but they felt the weight of. I took a deep breath. If I come with you, what happens next? You see my world, she said, and then you decide. I won't force you. I just want you to see it for yourself. Tom thought for a moment, then he looked at her and said, all right, I'll come, but only to look. No promises yet. Lena smiled again and reached out her hand. That's fair. He took it. They walked to the ship together, past the silent soldiers, past the curious eyes of the people. They stepped into the shining doorway, and it closed behind them. Inside the ship, the walls were smooth and silver with soft lights that moved like stars. The floor hummed under his feet, but it wasn't loud or sharp. It felt like fling. Lena guided him to a seat near a large window. The ship lifted slowly, and Marifor grew smaller. Below them, the hill, the hangar, the colony, all shrinking into the brown dust. Looked at it and wondered if he would ever come back. Lena sat beside him silent for a while. Then she spoke. "You don't have to marry me, Tom, but I want you to see why I asked you." Tom nodded. "I'll listen, but I don't make promises lightly, I know," she said. "That's why you're here." And as the ship flew through the stars heading toward a world he had never seen, Tom felt something strange in his chest, not fear nor doubt, something warm like the memory of a flower spinning in a girl's hand. On a quiet hill, Tom had never seen anything like the world they arrived on. It was called Alara Prime, the heart of the Alari Empire. The skies were deep purple, with silver clouds floating across giant crystal towers. The trees had blue leaves, and the streets shimmered like glass. People didn't walk fast or shout like back on Marifor. They moved like waves, calm and silent. Their clothes were smooth and glowing, soft with strange shapes and colors. It felt more like a dream than a real plot. Shalina walked beside him, still dressed in her silver robe. She moved with ease like she had always belonged here. But she looked at Tom often to check if he was all right and tried not to stare. But everything was new. The air smelled like flowers he couldn't name. There were machines that floated without noise and birds made of light that flew over them, leaving bright trails behind. They entered a wide hall filled with moving lights on the walls. The floor was clean enough to see your own reflection. A group of tall figures stood in a circle at the far end. Each wore long robes and thin crowns. These were the elders of Alara, the ones who guided the empire. They turned as Lena stepped forward and bowed their heads. Some of them spoke in a soft voice. "Princess Lena, you have returned sooner than expected, and you bring a guest." "This is Tom," she said. "He is my choice." Another elder raised a brow. "The promised child from the colony world." Marifor. Lena nodded. "He made a vow, and I accepted it. And now I offer him the right to stand beside me as my chosen partner." The room fell silent. The air felt heavier. Tom looked around, not sure what to say. He felt out of place, wearing his plain jacket and boots covered in dust from his old life. The elders looked at him like he was a strange tool found in a clean room. First elder spoke again. "The people of the ground are not like us. They have no training, no bloodline. How do you expect them to serve in the royal circle?" "I don't need someone who knows your rules," Lena said. "I need someone who tells the truth, someone who can see things for what they are, not what they are supposed to be." Tom didn't understand half the words they used, but he understood her tone. She was standing up for him. The elders whispered among themselves. Then the first one said, "He may stay for one full moon cycle. After that, a choice must be made." Lena bowed and led Tom away. They walked through long corridors lit by soft blue lamps. Every corner of the palace looked perfect, not a single crack or mark. It made Tom feel nervous, like one wrong step would break something. Lena showed him a room with a round bed and windows that opened to the stars. The walls had images that moved slowly, telling old stories of the Alari people, warriors, builders, thinkers, and queens, all proud and beautiful. Tom sat on the edge of the bed and sighed. "I don't belong here," he said. "This place is too clean, too quiet." Lena sat beside him. "I know it feels strange, but give it time. I didn't belong at first either." He looked at her. "You seem like you were born for it. You speak like them, move like them. You even wear the same robes. I had to learn." She said. "They wanted me to forget who I was, but I remember the hill and the promise and the boy who fixed things with his hands and not with lies." Tom smiled a little. "That boy is still me, just older and more tired." Over the next days, Tom followed Lena through her duties. She attended council meetings, met with leaders from other planets, and read ancient texts in silent halls. Tom didn't understand most of it, but he watched carefully. At night, Lena would join him in the garden under trees that glowed like lanterns. They would sit on stone benches and talk about home, about the old satellite tower, about the juice cans and the flowers she once spun in her hand. Tom told her about his life fixing ships, how some things were simple if you just listened to the machine and treated it with care. Lena listened closely, her head resting on her hand, her eyes soft with memory. One evening, a young noble named Alain approached them. He wore a robe filled with golden threads and had a voice that sounded like music. "You must be the groundbreaker," Alain said with a polite smile. "You are braver than I thought to stand beside our princess." Tom stood up. "I just came to visit. I haven't decided anything yet." Alain nodded. "Of course. But do you think someone who holds a wrench belongs in a place made for crowns? Before Tom could reply, Lena spoke. Tom belongs where I say he belongs. Elaine smiled again. And Bo, then I wish you both luck. When he left, Tom turned to Lena. Do they all think like that? Most of them, she said, but they don't understand you have something. They don't heart. Tom looked at the sky above the garden and thought about Metaphor, about the dust, the wind, the broken engines waiting for someone to care. He missed the noise, the realness, the smell of metal and oil, but he also saw something in Lena, something that had not changed. She was still the girl who climbed towers and laughed in the wind. She was just wearing a crown now. Next day, Tom followed her to the outer wall of the palace where ships came and went. A small vessel was broken, its engine making strange sounds. The workers were confused. No one could fix it. Him stepped forward, rolled up his sleeves, and listened. To the sound, he knocked on the side, twisted a few wires, and adjusted a small bolt. The ship quieted at once, and the engine lights turned green. Workers clapped softly. One even nodded with respect. Lena stood beside him, proud. You don't need a crown to lead, she said. You just need to understand what's broken and care enough to fix it. Tom looked at her and smiled. Maybe I do belong here after all, but deep down he still wasn't sure. Tom woke early the next morning. He stepped out onto the wide stone balcony just outside his room. The view was unreal. A sky full of stars hung above, shining brighter than any he had ever seen back on Metaphor. The city below looked like a sea of lights. Tall towers reached toward the sky, glowing with soft colors. Machines flew through the air, moving goods and people from place to place quietly and smoothly. Everything here worked with perfect order. Lena met him in the dining hall where long tables were filled with fruit, bread, and drinks he could not name. She wore a blue robe today. Her hair was braided with small silver rings that shimmered when she moved. Sleep well, she asked. Better than I thought, Tom said while picking up a round green fruit. Though this place still feels like a dream. Lena smiled. You'll get used to it after breakfast. She took him to see the heart of the Alari capital. A wide platform lifted them high into the air, past the towers and gardens, to a place called the Sky Circle. It was a large round hall made of crystal glass, where leaders from across the Alari Empire gathered. The hall was already full. Many nobles sat on curved benches. Some wore bright robes, others wore simple clothing. With symbols on their shoulders, they looked powerful and quiet, like people used to being obeyed. When Tom walked in with Lena, all eyes turned to him. Whispers filled the air. That's him, the groundbird, the boy from Metaphor. He doesn't even wear formal clothes. He looks like a worker, not a partner for a princess. Tom kept walking beside Lena. He didn't look down or walk faster. He had nothing to hide. The center of the room stood Elder Mira, one of the highest voices in the Empire. Her face was calm and her eyes sharp, like she could read your thoughts just by looking. She raised her hand and the room went silent. Princess Lena, she said, you bring your guests before us again. Have you made your choice? Lena stood tall. No choice can be made without truth. That is why I asked for a day of open trials. Let the people see what kind of man stands beside me. The elders whispered among themselves. Elder Mira gave a small nod. Very well, one day of open trial. 3 tests. Will he accept? Tom didn't know what that meant, but he saw Lena's look and nodded. I'll try. The first test came in the form of speech. He was asked to speak to a group of young Alari students. They were smart, curious, and had studied law and history since childhood. Tom stood in front of them wearing his usual jacket and boots. He didn't speak with fancy words. Instead, he told them about Metaphor, about fixing broken ships and helping neighbors when machines failed. I don't know all your rules, he said, but I know when something doesn't work. And I know how to listen. Listening is the first step to fixing anything, even people. The room was silent for a moment, then a few students clapped, a few even smiled. Second test was a task of wisdom. The council gave him a puzzle device with thousands of moving parts. No one explained what it was meant to do. They just gave him time, and Tom sat with it for hours, turning the pieces, listening to the clicks and hums. He didn't rush. He treated it like one of the broken engines back home. After many tries, the device lit up and opened like a flower, showing the soft white light inside. Some nobles were surprised. A few stood and whispered again. Third and final test was about leadership. A training room was set up like a real emergency. A city model filled with small buildings and small machines. The goal was to stop a chain reaction. That would damage half the city. Tim worked with a group of young officers. He didn't shout or take control. Instead, he asked questions, listened, and guided them slowly. The team found the fault and repaired it just in time. After the test, Lena walked to him. With a proud smile, "You passed. I didn't know if I would," he said, "but I just did what I always do." That night, a celebration was held in the palace garden. Bright lanterns floated in the air, and music from glowing instruments filled the sky. Soft food was served on glass plates, and people danced under the moonlight. Stood near the edge of the garden, watching the lights. Lena joined him, holding two cups of sweet fruit drink. "You surprised them," she said. "They thought you would fail." "I didn't come here to impress them," he said. "I came because I remember the promise." Lena looked up at the stars. "The Alari world is beautiful, but it's cold to everything is polished and perfect. But sometimes it feels like a machine. People forget how to feel, how to care, Tom. Not a machines break when they aren't treated right, so do people." She looked at him. "That's why I need you. I don't need a prince. I need someone who sees what others ignore, someone who doesn't wear a crown but carries something stronger." Tom smiled a little. "Like a toolbox," she laughed softly. Exactly. Later in the evening, a noble named Daryl approached Tom. He wore red robes and had a golden ring on every finger. He gave Tom a long stare. "You did well today, Groundburn. But don't be fooled. This place can shine on the outside and rot from within. Be careful where you step." Tom watched him leave, then turned to Lena. "Friendly guy. He's powerful and careful." Lena said, "He doesn't want change." Tom thought for a while, then looked at the stars again. "Your world is made of light and rules, but I think even stars need someone to keep them burning." Lena looked at him with soft eyes. "And I think I've already found that someone." The days on Alara Prime grew busier for Tom and Lena. Tom began to understand the palace was not only made of shining towers and glowing gardens, but also shadows hidden behind the light. Lena spent long hours in meetings with nobles and advisors. Some smiled warmly, others looked cold and careful. Tom noticed many whispered. When Lena was not looking, their eyes often lingered on him with doubt or suspicion. One afternoon, Lena took Tom to a quiet room deep inside the palace. It was filled with maps and holograms showing many planets, stars, and fleets of ships. "This is the war room," she said. "Our empire faces threats from many sides, rebels, pirates, and rivals who want to take what we have." Tom looked at the glowing dots moving slowly on the map. "So many dangers." "Yes," Lena replied. "That is why I need people I can trust, people like you." Tom touched the map. "What can I do?" "Learn, watch, and help where you can." Lena said, "This is not just about war. It's about keeping peace and protecting our people." As the days passed, Tom joined Lena in meetings and traveled with her to nearby worlds. He saw the beauty and complexity of the empire, but also the unrest beneath its surface. An evening, while walking in the palace garden, a strange man approached Tom. He wore a dark cloak that hid most of his face, but his eyes were sharp and cold. "You are the Groundburn," the man said quietly. "You do not belong here, but you walk among lions." Tom took a step back. "Who are you?" The man smiled thinly. "A friend or an enemy depends on what you choose to do." Before Tom could say more, the man disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the cold night air behind him. Told Lena about the encounter. She frowned and held his hand tightly. "This world is full of danger, more than I told you," she said. "There are those who fear change, and those who want power at any cost." Tom nodded. "Then we have to be careful and strong." One night, Tom was summoned to a secret meeting in a small chamber under the palace. The room was dimly lit and filled with a few trusted advisors Lena had chosen. They talked about rebels who attacked distant colonies, about spies in the palace, and about a secret plan to take Lena's throne by force. Tom listened carefully, then Lena looked at him. "I need your help more than ever. You understand fixing things in the real world. You can see what others miss." Tom swallowed his fear. "What do you want me to do?" "Find the spies," Lena said. "Watch the people around you. Trust no one too easily." Tom nodded. He had never been a spy before, but he knew how to watch and listen. The next days were hard. Tom had to hide his feelings and pretend to be just a visitor. He watched the nobles, study their faces, and learn their habits. He noticed small signs, a quick glance, a hidden message in words. In the way some guards moved with tension. One day, Tom found a secret message hidden inside a book. Lena had shown him. The words told about a planned attack on the palace. He ran to Lena. "Without wasting time." "We don't have much time," Tom said. They want to strike soon. Lina's face grew serious. We must prepare the people who trust. Me will fight with me together, they called their loyal guards, and prepared the palace for battle. Night before the attack, Lina came to Tom's room. They stood near the window looking out at the city below. I never imagined my childhood promise would bring such danger, Lina said softly. Tom smiled. Promises are like seeds, they grow into what we make of them. She looked at him. I am glad you are here with me. He took her hand. I won't let anything happen to you outside the palace. The stars shone calm and steady, but inside the walls tension rose. Like a storm ready to break. When the attack came, it was sudden, and fierce shadows moved quickly through the halls. But Lina's guards fought bravely. Tom helped by repairing broken security systems and guiding soldiers through secret paths. In the end, Lina stood strong with her people. The attackers were pushed back, and the palace was safe. But everyone knew this was only the beginning. After the battle, Lina and Tom sat together in the quiet garden, their faces tired but eyes bright with hope. We survived, Lina said. Yes, but we must be ready for what comes next, Tom replied. She smiled. With you here, I feel ready for anything. Tom looked at the stars once more and thought about how promises from a long time ago had brought them to this moment. A moment filled with danger, but also with the chance to build something better together. The days after the attack were quiet, but tense. Tom knew the danger had not disappeared. It only waited in silence, like a hidden beast ready to strike again. Lina worked harder than ever. She met with her council every morning, and every evening she talked about peace but planned for war. She wore the weight of her crown in her eyes. and watched her closely. He wanted to help, but sometimes he felt small in this world of polished words and careful smiles. An afternoon, while walking through the palace corridors, Tom overheard voices behind a heavy door. He pressed his ear and heard a conversation full of anger and doubt. They do not trust the princess. They want to control the empire themselves. One voice said, the groundburner is a threat to their plans. We must remove him before he causes more problems. Another voice replied. Tom's heart beat fast. He stepped back quietly, but he knew now his position was even more dangerous. He found Lina in the garden and told her everything. She did not look surprised, only sad. They fear what they do not understand, she said. But we cannot fight fear with fear. We must fight with truth together. They decided to reveal the traitors inside the palace. They planned to gather evidence and show the people who wanted to harm the empire for their own gains, and began spending nights searching for clues. He moved quietly, watching shadows and listening to whispers. Sometimes he felt alone, but Lina's words gave him strength. That night, he found a hidden room behind a library wall filled with papers and communication devices that sent secret messages to unknown places. Took the papers and hurried to Linash. Read quickly, her face hardening. This is proof. We must act now. They called their loyal guards and invited the suspicious nobles to a council meeting. The palace was filled with tension as everyone waited to hear what Lina would say. Lina stood tall and spoke clearly. These papers show plans to overthrow the crown and divide the empire. We will not allow this betrayal. She showed the evidence one by one. The nobles gasped. Some turned pale, others whispered. Quick-lipped traitors could not deny the proof. Many were arrested and sent away after the meeting. Lina looked at Tom. You did well. You helped save the empire. Tom smiled shyly. I only did what was right. Days passed, and peace slowly returned. The nobles began to respect Tom, not just as Lina's partner, but as a man who stood for truth and courage. Lina invited Tom to a ceremony where she officially announced him as her chosen partner. The hall was filled with music and light. People from all over the empire came to celebrate. Tom stood beside Lina wearing a new robe with simple but strong designs. He felt nervous but proud. When Lina spoke, she said, promises made long ago can shape the future. We are proof that hope and trust can change worlds. Tom looked at the crowd and then at Lina, his heart full of hope and love. That night, as they walked under the stars, Lina took Tom's hand. We have many challenges ahead, but together we can face anything. Tom squeezed her hand. I promise to stand by you always. The stars shone brighter than ever, as if the whole universe was listening to their vow. The days that followed Lina's ceremony were filled with hope and change. The empire began to look different, not because the towers shined brighter, but because people felt something new. Trustum woke up early and stepped outside the palace. Gardens were quiet except for the soft sound of leaves and the breeze. The stars faded as the sun rose, painting the sky with soft pink. In orange color, Selena joined him wearing a simple dress. Today was special. She was going to visit a distant colony that had been forgotten for many years. We will see the people who live far from the shining cities. She said they are the heart of our empire. Tom nodded. I want to see it with you. The trip was long. They traveled on a fast ship through bright stars and empty space. When they arrived, the colony looked very different from Alara Prime. There were no glowing towers, but simple houses made of stone and wood. The air smelled fresh and clean. People greeted them warmly. Some wore clothes patched with care, others carried tools or baskets of fruit. A woman named Mira welcomed them. She was a leader here and showed Lena and Tom the daily life of the colony. The children played near the river while elders told stories by firelight. Lena listened carefully to their worries and hopes. Many felt forgotten by the empire. They wanted help with medicine, food, and education. Them looked at Lena. This is the real world. You fixed ships, but here people need hope and trust more than anything. Lena smiled. Then we must bring it to them. They spent days working together, helping build schools, fixing water systems, and planting gardens. The people's faces changed from worry to hope. One evening by the fire, Lena and Tom talked quietly. Promises are not just words, Lena said, they are actions. That's what we must show. Tom nodded. I never thought being a princess would mean so much responsibility. You carry responsibility too, she said. You remind me of home and the boy I once was. Tom smiled. And you remind me of the future. When they returned to the palace, news spread about their visit. Many nobles began to see Lena and Tom in a new light. They understood that ruling was not only about power but about caring for every part of the empire. A new council was formed, including people from distant colonies. They brought fresh ideas and new energy. Tom found himself part of this new beginning. He helped build bridges between different worlds and people, not because he wanted to be a prince, but because he believed in the promise he made long ago. Evening, Lena and Tom stood on the palace balcony looking at the stars. Do you remember when we were kids? Lena said you would marry me. Tom laughed softly. I did not know then how important those words would become. Lena took his hand. Now we have a chance to build something real together. Tom looked at the sky full of stars and felt peace. I am ready. Their future was not easy or perfect, but it was theirs. They had grown from children with dreams into leaders with courage and love. As the night deep and the stars seemed to shine just for them, a promise kept, a new journey begun, and a kingdom made not only of light but of heart.